Hi everyone. Now, when I started doing local farmers markets, not surprisingly I started off selling honey, and then I started selling other things, the traditional beeswax furniture polish and beeswax candles, and then along came honey marmalade, which was very successful. Then there was the fudge and the honeycomb, and a year or so ago now I started to produce propolis products, the tincture and the cream, which has turned out to be very successful indeed. And as well as that, there have been other things like books and gift packs and all sorts of strange things. This year I've decided that I'm going to produce a product that I haven't done for quite a few years now. And this was because a friend of mine, a fellow trader, kept asking me about it, and so I said to him, okay, I'll make it. The product itself is a very simple thing, although beekeepers do like to call it a premium product. And it is basically just a block of wax cut out of the frame with the honey still in it, and you eat it all together. Now, one of the confusing things about this product is its name. Now, lots of people refer to it as honeycomb, which it is not, and for a long time I used to refer to it as cutcomb. However, there is legislation about honey that tells you what you can and can't do, and what you can call things and what you can't call things, and from that it turns out that the correct legal name is comb honey. So, this video is about how I produce this comb honey. Now, to make the blocks of comb, as you'd imagine, there are lots of different ways of doing it, and a few of them revolve on using these sort of things, which are just frames that go into the beehive, and they've got square boxes in here, and inside those boxes is a sheet of wax, and the bees build that up, and then when it's all finished up and ready, you can just take these square sections out and get them ready. At the other end of the scale, perhaps, there are these things called Ross rounds, which produce some very nice round, not surprisingly, blocks of comb honey, and you can put them in nice presentation cases and it looks very professional. However, you have to put an entire frame super on the beehive, and these things cost upwards of 180 quid. Now, they produce a lot of these Ross rounds, far more than I could possibly want. I'd only want to make a dozen or so, if that, a year. So I take a much simpler approach to it all. Now, normally in the super you would put a frame like this in here, and you can see the wax here, and you might better see that there's a wire going all the way through it. And the reason the wire is there is so that it gives it some strength, and that when you're taking the runny honey off these things and you're spinning these things around very rapidly, the wire stops the frame from being destroyed. Now, to make comb honey, you don't have that issue, so you use what look to be similar types of frame, and it's got the wax sheet in there again, but there's no wire in here, because it doesn't need that strength. And also, bearing in mind that eventually somebody's going to be eating this, they don't want to eat the wire that could be in there. So I put in simple frames like this. This will make maybe 5 blocks of comb honey, and when I put it in the hive, you can see I've painted it blue here, so I know which ones of the frames in the hive are being used for making comb honey. Now, this is the hive that I put a couple of frames of comb honey in, and we'll have a quick look just to see how things are getting on. I suspect everything's okay, but we'll have a quick look. And look. there we have it, a perfectly capped frame. Once the bees are satisfied that everything is okay, they cap it all off with wax, and it's very pure and very white, as you can see. That one looks fine, and the other one is the same. Now you can buy a complete frame like this, and if you're stupid enough you can pay between 60 and £80 for it, which is ridiculous considering I will cut about 5 blocks out of here and I charge a £5 for each, which admittedly is cheap or inexpensive, as I prefer to call it. But I'm afraid people these days, hipsters, are prepared to pay for the latest food fad, and this is one of them. Anyway, rant over. Everything looks pretty good, so I'm going to take these away, or this whole super, as it looks like it's all full, and cut the blocks out of here. Once the frame of honey has been extracted, this is what I use to cut the blocks. Now it's going to be cut onto a sort of acrylic type breadboard here, and I use this sort of pastry cutter type thing, and it's got a plunger on it, and you just push this into the frame. It cuts the block, and then the plunger here pushes it out. Now to help cutting it, I'm going to put this into a little pan of hot water to make this hot, and hopefully makes it easier to cut. And once the blocks have been cut, I'll put them onto this tray here to let all the sort of open honey, if you like, drain away, and then we can get it ready to be put into boxes ready for the market. Now I should get 5 of these, I think. 1, 2, 3, just about 5. So you just hold it, push it rather, down into the frame. Yep, just give it a bit of a wiggle, ease it out, and it stays there. So we have another go. Fairly obviously it's extremely sticky, but success. So I'll just squeeze this onto here, and there we have it. So I'll just carry on doing this. And the last one, and it is just about 5, just 5. And there we have it. 5 very nice looking blocks of comb honey. Now the frame has still got little bits of wax and honey in it, and what I'm going to do is just cut that all out, all this stuff here, just cut this out. I've got a bucket over there for it, and at some point what I'll do is I'll just warm it down very gently, and the wax will melt, and then when it cools, the wax will float on top of the little bit of honey that's in there. The frames are still going to be called what are called wet frames, which means they're wet with honey. And what I do is I just leave them outside, probably down by one of the hives, and the bees will find it and they will eat it up and take it back to the hive, so it's not wasted. Next up, we're going to package the things. Once the blocks have been cut, they're put into these little plastic pots with lids, and there's a label gone on there, and I put them into these cardboard presentation boxes. This. And also inside each one there's a little card here that I put in there just explaining what cut comb is, and also there's some suggestions on the back about how it can be eaten. So I'll put that in the bottom there, close it up. Oops. And there we are, comb honey, a premium product.